Okay, the sanding for the most part is done, the large surfaces. The two things I'm going to show you now are the most common errors. The one that I told you about where people leave the top completely flat and it looks wrong. This is normally the state somebody would just go ahead and say, well, it's been sanded, time to refinish. And if you did, it would look too geometrically perfect. And it's so subtle that it's difficult to describe it, but it's very easy to show it in a side-by-side comparison. So just trust me on that. And the other one that's very common is people, when they refinish a pipe, they don't know how to clean the stamping, and it will stay dark and look obviously wrong, like this one. There's a little bit of varnish or whatever was used, shellac probably, wax, something, it doesn't matter what it is, but it stays in there, and if it does, and then you refinish over that, it always looks wrong, and it looks horrible, as well as immediately signals that the pipe has been refinished, and we want it to be invisible. So here's the method to clean out the stamping. An extremely fine brass brush. Don't use steel, it'll trench the wood. It's got to be the right size or it won't fit in the grooves. It's got to be, well, I don't know what, there's no size stamp or anything on here. Well, maybe there is. I don't know if that'll help you on when buying one of these things. But there's the information on it. I buy them a dozen at a time. And you just slop some alcohol on that spot where the stamping is and lightly go in circles. And like magic, all of the crud that's packed into that stamping will come out. And when you stain it, the letters won't look artificial. That's not the right word, but you know what I'm saying. You've all seen it, I'm sure. Now, if you do this lightly and the brass bristles are the right size, it doesn't take very much. Don't go scrubbing. If you go screwing this up, there's no going back. It's just a very delicate process. And keep going until, sure enough, the lettering is no longer dark. Now you do have to, it's left ever so fine scratches now on the area where the stamping was, and if you were to refinish it now, it would look, you'd wonder what in the world is going on there. There's all these little tiny angel hair fine scratches around that. So you want to remember to take some like 800 or 1000 grit and go back over this same spot to get rid of those. And it's looking pretty nice. Who doesn't like a classic English Barling high grade? And there we go. As you can see, the stamping is no longer black on either side. And I'm going to take a little piece of here's some 1200 grit, which is enough for this, and get rid of those little scratches that I just now put in it with the brush. If you don't do this, you'll know what you did after it's too late. You'll have to go back and refinish the whole thing. Using very light pressure, covering the same area that the brush touched. Alrighty. And there might be, now that you're saying, wait a minute, the letters are black again, use a nylon toothbrush and clean them out one last time. The nylon will get the most recent pass of dust out of there without leaving any scratches. It's not fine enough, though, to get the crud out in the first place. So you have to do both steps. Okay, now, part 2 is this ever so slight radius on the rim, and that is accomplished with 600 grit. And the technique is use the ball of your thumb and just with medium pressure, just allow the arch that naturally occurs from that pressure to ever so slightly roll over the edges of the rim. You don't want to overdo this. It'll look all kinds of wrong if it's too much as well as if it's too little. So this is going to take some practice and go slow. Or you'll end up having to retop it. Okay, that should be about enough. And then, ever so slightly, just almost just the strength of the paper, not much more than that. You want an ever so slight radius around the edge here too. You're going to say, wait a minute, that can't possibly be that important. Actually, it is. In the eyes of a collector, this is something they look at to determine if it's been worked on in this way, if there's been a cosmetic top or an actual top. Once around usually does it. And give the inside a little radius here just to clean that up. Okay, now this is ready to stain. And I've got a very strange way of doing that as well, so I will shut off the camera and prepare for that and turn it back on. See you in a minute.